Should be starting in a second.
Yep.
All right, I'd like to call the Monday, October 23rd, 2023 Select Board meeting to order at 7 o'clock. With me, I have Aaron Underhill, Ellen Rosenfeld, and myself. And Karen, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Hi.
Mike will be joining us via Zoom. He is not testing positive, but got big events planned
Suspect.
coming up.
But he is positive.
Yes, he's a positive guy.
Positive, he's not testing positive.
Yeah, he's pretty sure, okay. All right, so to kick things off, we have a Tri-County election reminder. I'll just read I'll mention it and then I'll read the details, and I'll have our town clerk come up if she wants to give any more details that I may have forgotten. So tomorrow, from noon to 8 p.m. is an election at Town Hall. There'll be 2 ballots handed out. One is the Tri-County School Building Project. And this would authorize the $285,992,692. We're all trying to turn our phone ringers off. There we go. $2,285,992,692 to pay for the design, construction, and equipment of the new Tri-County Votech School at 147 Pond Street in Franklin. That is an interesting ballot because it requires the 11 towns in the district if a majority of the 11 towns vote. So if everybody in Millis votes no and everybody in the other towns vote yes, it passes. It's just 50% plus 1 is what it takes. So if everybody in Millis votes yes and everybody else votes no, it fails. So it's not going to be based town by town. It's based on total turnout, and 50% plus 1 of the total turnout will determine the outcome of the election. So it's a little different than most of our typical elections. It's being run from noon until 8 p.m. because that's the maximum number of hours allowed by state charter when this bill was put into place in the 1970s on how this was funded. The second ballot will be to pay for this school because unlike any other Proposition 2.5 vote, there is no funding attached to the vote for the school. So the second ballot would be a debt exclusion question to allow the town of Millis to basically increase taxes beyond the Prop 2.5 level to pay for the project. The project cost would vary year to year based on enrollment. So it's between $140 a household up to $270 a household, depending on how many kids go, and hitting the town for a total of between $400,000 and $750,000 that we'd have to pay based on enrollment. If the debt exclusion doesn't pass, we'd be faced with cutting services or capital to pay for it because it's not optional to pay for the cost of the school. So we'd have to cut back on other town budgets. We can't say what that would be yet because that's still probably a year and a half, 2 years away before we'd have to make those decisions. Or we'd have to cut capital projects, and the capital are the roads, building repairs, trucks, all those type things that you think of in the capital world. So I'm urging everybody to turn out and vote. Bigger turnout will be better for everybody. They anticipate a very, very low turnout for this election, but most towns are not putting the debt exclusion on, so they're just voting yes or no on the school. So hopefully we do have a large turnout and people make their wills known. Do you have anything you'd like to add? No, good. Evidently I covered it. Okay. All right.
I'm all set.
Okay, good. Town meeting is November 6th at
It's right below. Oh, second page.
Apparently, there
There you go.
we go. I should have been a little more organized there. The Fall Town Annual Town Meeting will be held Monday, November 6th at the Millis Middle School, High School at 7:30. The warrant for the November 6th includes funding for a PFAS treatment plant at Well 3, funding for road and sidewalk construction, design, repair, and maintenance, and other important town business. Really, we're trying to put another $500,000 into roads and sidewalks at this meeting, so a good turnout would be important to have. And the PFAS plant, this will be fixing well number 3. Wells 1 and 2 are now they can't detect any PFAS in them, so that's a huge win. Well 3 is our next well that we'd like to do, and after we finish that well, we will be in a good position for our water system in the town. You can see information about this meeting at Millis' website. All right, any other comments, Mike?
Nope, I think you covered it very well, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Touch a truck.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to announce.
All right, moving from the critically important to the incredibly fun. We
Yes.
have Touch a Truck Halloween Party. This is going to be Saturday, the 28th, from 1 to 3 at the Veterans Memorial Building. The admission fee is 1 bag of unopened Halloween candy. I believe that's for the select board to divide up, but no.
Could be.
So if you can drop off 1 bag of unopened Halloween candy, you're invited to Touch a Truck. This is sponsored by the Millis Rec Department, and I see front-end loaders, fire trucks, and police cars on this flyer. So, Jim, I hope you're bringing something nice. All right.
Yes. That is always a fun event. And Mr. Chair, I just wanted to add a special thank you to Nick Maxwell. Nick Maxwell works behind the cameras here for Millis Community Media. He is going to be moving on to bigger things as a full-time production coordinator in another town. And Nick has been fabulous, working for us for the past year and helping us with the broadcasting the meetings, as well as doing a lot of other things for the schools and around town. So a big thank you to Nick, and we wish him well.
Great.
Thanks, Rick.
Question?
Yes. Are we allowed to ask a question on something that you've already discussed?
As long as it's Touch a Truck. No, please, come on up and you have to use
You
the
have to come to the
microphone.
microphone
Yeah.
and announce yourself.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm Rich Posklensky, 11 Ticonderoga Lane. I just have a question on going back to the Tri-County topic. I remember when Millis was considering building and voting on a new senior center, there was some investigation at some level on what the cost, the true cost of that was. And I think there was some conclusion that on a per square foot basis, the proposed cost was higher. My question is, at least within Millis at some administrative level, has a similar type of investigation been done on the cost of the Tri-County High School, the new proposed
Yeah,
high school?
I'll give you a little bit of a long answer on it, I guess.
Yes, thank
It's
you.
not our project, so we don't have all the details that go into it as we did
Okay.
with the other one. This cost is in keeping with other VOTEC schools that are being built.
Right.
The difference comes down to the funding formula. Others had been funded at up to 70-something% by the state, and this one is 27% funded by the state. So that's really where the difference comes in. I think that these projects are quite expensive, and you understand why. It's not like outfitting a high school. You
Exactly.
need to outfit auto shops and other things.
Right.
So, we have not done a forensic analysis of it. It's their project. They put it together. I don't think there's anything that is terribly out of line compared to other VOTEC programs.
Right.
The funding is the biggest difference. If this is being funded at 70% by the state, the Millis chunk would be significantly less.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
I think it's veterans.
Okay. Anybody else want to add to that, or did? that-
No,
that was fine.
Okay.
No, you're nailing it.
Wonder if I'll have the vacuum truck at Touch a Truck, but anyway. The Veterans Proclamation. Aaron?
All righty. Town of Millis Veterans Day 2023. In 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed the first Veterans Day proclamation, calling on our nation to pay appropriate homage to the veterans of all its wars who have contributed so much to the preservation of this nation. Our nation has fought and continues to fight battles around the world. The words of the first proclamation still ring true. Let us solemnly remember the sacrifices of all those who fought so valiantly on the seas, in the air, and on foreign soils to preserve our heritage of freedom, and let us reconsecrate ourselves in the task of promoting and enduring peace so that their efforts shall not have been in vain. We remember with somber and grateful hearts those who have served the United States of America with distinction and valor as sailors, soldiers, aviators, and Marines, and offer our sincere prayers for those who continue to defend the principles on which our nation was founded. The state of Massachusetts is home to thousands of our nation's military families. We are proud to recognize our country's veterans and extend the appreciation of our citizens to those who wear the uniforms of the United States Armed Forces and serve on the front lines, preserving the freedom and liberty. We, the Town of Millis Select Board, do hereby proclaim Saturday, November 11th, 2023, as Veterans Day in the Town of Millis, and encourage all townspeople to observe and appreciate the sacrifices and contributions of our veterans who fought for peace and defended democracy in our land and abroad. In the Town of Millis, given this 11th day of November 2023, signed by the Select Board.
Okay, thank you. Motion?
Oh, motion.
Oh, that's your list.
I move that we approve and sign the Veterans Proclamation as written.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to sign and approve the Veterans Proclamation as written. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. All right, and just the announcement on that, we were sorting this out before the meeting started, so I'll do it officially on camera
Yes.
now. On Saturday, November 11th, at 8:30 to 10:30, there's a free veterans breakfast for all veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces to be served at the American Legion Post 208, Millis, Mass. Then at 11 a.m., the Veterans Day formal ceremony will be held at the World War I Memorial, which is located across the street from the American Legion Post 208 building, or in case of rain, that will be moved indoors to the Legion. Okay? And there's a detailed schedule. I'm not going to read that. Okay, all right.
We'll post it on the website.
Thank you. So all details will be posted on the website. All right, now we have some appointments. Mike, do you want to?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we've done in years past, we do appoint positions for snow contractors to help the town with snow removal during the winter. And in keeping with that, I am requesting that the board vote to ratify my appointment of Michael Caffro, Jackson Borst, Joseph Beret, and Mark Robbins as seasonal snow removal contractors for the town, subject to successful physical examination and query results for the period from November 1st, 2023 to March 1st, 2024.
Okay, there's a motion on that one.
I move that the board vote to ratify the town administrator's appointment of Michael Caffro, Jackson Borst, Joseph Beret, and Mark Robbins as seasonal snow removal contractors, subject to successful physical exams and quarry results.
Second.
So we moved and seconded to ratify the town administrator's appointment of
I was asking if Beret was,
of Michael
Right,
Caffro,
she was
Jackson
myself,
Borst, Joseph Beret, and Mark Robbins as seasonal snow removal contractors, subject to the successful physical examination and query results. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Great, thank you very much. And Mr. Chairman, I am requesting that the board vote to ratify my appointment of James McKay as the EPA Grant Administrator for the PFAS treatment facility for well number 3 for the duration of that project. Just a little background, as part of the $3.5 million grant that the town has received from the EPA for this project, one of the requirements is that the town appoint an official administrator, local administrator, to administrate the grant during the construction. So Mr. McKay has volunteered to take on that role. I'm asking the board to
I'm sorry, Jim.
ratify that appointment this evening.
Yeah, you blacked out there right at the moment. Mr. McKay has
Oh,
agreed.
graciously agreed to take on the duties of that position.
All right, thank you.
ready?
I'm set.
I move that the board vote to ratify the town administrator's appointment of James McKay as the EPA Grant Administrator for the PFAS treatment facility for well number 3 for the duration of the project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to ratify the appointment of James McKay as the EPA Grant Administrator for the PFAS treatment plant for well 3 for the duration of the project. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. All right, and next up?
Thank you very much. And some exciting news this evening. After an extensive search and interview process, I am appointing Ms. Lisa Kirby for the full-time position of Senior Services Outreach Coordinator at the Council on Aging. She comes highly recommended by the COA Director, and I know that the COA Director and the Assistant Town Administrator held several interviews, and actually, I believe the Council on Aging Director is on Zoom if there's any questions, but this evening I'm asking for the board's ratification of my appointment.
I think the candidate is also online, if you have any questions of her. I can't, Lisa, are you there? I can't see, maybe not.
I don't
I
think
can't, I don't know if that's Samsung is Lisa, but that's
Yeah.
okay, that's
Okay.
okay, sorry.
Did you want to ask her anything of Anne Marie or no?
Yeah.
Go ahead, do you have any
Oh,
questions?
no, not questions. I didn't know if she wanted to say something.
Does she want to say something?
Anne Marie, would you like to say something? Unmute. There we
Yes,
go.
thank you, and thank you very much for that. Ms. Kirby comes to us with a great amount of public service background, and I believe that as she's expressed the desire to shift in her career a bit to be more with social services, I believe the experience she brings from public service, as well as the assistance we can provide in terms of training and what we do at the senior center, she'll lend greatly to what we need to do at the senior center for our residents. So we're very excited to bring her on board, and I believe she will be starting after the 1st of November. So thank you very much.
Okay. I move that the board vote to ratify the town administrator's appointment of Lisa Kirby as the Senior Services / Outreach Coordinator for the Council on Aging, subject to a successful physical exam.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to ratify the town administrator's appointment of Lisa Kirby as the Senior Center Outreach Coordinator for the Council on Aging, subject to a successful physical exam. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, pass unanimously. And we have one more that's not on the motion list, which is the appointment. Yeah, I know, it's gonna leave us in a lurch.
Okay.
So we have an applicant for the COA board, is that correct, Anne Marie? Or
That
Mike,
is
or would
correct.
one of you like to?
That is correct. I don't know if,
Yes,
Anne Marie, do
that's
you want to
correct.
speak to it? Go ahead. It's, or I can, it just, Carol Maloof, so the COA board had looked through a few people had applied, and they have chosen Carol Maloof, and are recommending that the select board appoint Carol as the newest member of the board.
Okay, and this is our appointment, so we don't ratify, so we're just gonna make a motion to
Yeah.
appoint Carol Maloof to the COA board.
Okay, I make a motion to appoint Carol Maloof to the Council on Aging Board.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to appoint Carol Maloof to the Council on Aging board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, welcome, Carol. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Now on to PFAS.
These back away. All right. PFAS, one of my favorite topics that hopefully will end in a year.
What would a select board meeting be without a
Yeah.
I know.
PFAS update?
So while Tyler's setting up, I'll give a brief introduction. With me tonight is Tyler Bernier from Kleinfelder. First, I want to congratulate Tyler. He oversaw our first, the first contract for the PFAS plant at Wells 1 and 2. He came in under budget, on time, so congratulations, and thank you on behalf of the town of Millis. Tonight, as part of the contract that you signed, you allowed the town administrator to sign back in July, we were to present with you the 75% drawings and preliminary costs for Wells Number 3, located off of Birch Street. Tyler's already filed for, a little premature, but we're until after we get the vote at town meeting, if you approve tonight. We are on the November docket for the Conservation Commission to get this really rolling. So Tyler will explain the costs and give a breakdown and a time, most importantly, a very aggressive timeline to get this project up and running.
Does that microphone work?
I think that
It's
microphone
like
will
up
work,
to you.
if you want to work right there.
Yeah.
We have good cameras, it should work pretty well, we'll see how it goes.
That works, I can just stay here.
I don't think I can move this thing on the right-hand side, because it's on the
I think you could
TV.
just, if you want to just minimize it in the left-hand corner
minimized
of
it
the
on my
black, right
screen,
there. Oop.
But it's on the
Oh.
other screen. I think we can live with it.
Okay.
It's not on my screen,
Handouts
so I
if
can read it.
Public wants us.
Yeah,
I might be able to.
Or,
If you give
yeah.
me 2 seconds, I'm not gonna do it. Yeah, I was gonna say, you got it on that one. There you go. There you go. Perfect.
Perfect.
Thanks, Tyler.
So as Jim said, I'm just gonna be giving a quick project update on the well 3 water treatment facility. The project is pretty similar to the one that we just completed at Wells 1 and 2. It's just at a different location. Obviously has some minor differences, but in general, the design is very similar to what we did at Wells 1 and 2. So the project purpose is pretty simple. It's to remove PFAS-6 to non-detectable levels from the groundwater at well 3. This new treatment facility and both this facility and the one at Wells 1 and 2, the way that we design them and the way that Jim and his team operate them, they will inherently comply with upcoming EPA regulations, which are proposed to go into effect in the early part of next year. So these plants already meet those regulations, and those regulations will have no impact on operation of the facility. The new facility has very similar activated carbon filters to those that are at well 1 and 2. There's just a little bit less water being treated, so they are quite a bit smaller. Those filters there are probably 20 feet tall in the picture. The ones at wells 1 and 2 are a bit smaller and only hold 10,000 pounds of carbon each. So there'll be a total of 40,000 pounds of activated carbon in the building. And just the same as the last project, it's important long-term investment for the town's water supply and system resiliency, making sure that you have an adequate number of facilities that can produce water within or comply with the regulations. So just kind of a summary on the well 3 project. There are 2 buildings currently at the well 3 site. The one that's kind of out of the picture on the left holds the well pump, so we'll need to keep that building intact. The building on the right holds all the chemical treatment equipment that is currently being used at the site. That chemical treatment equipment will be relocated into the new building, and this building will be demolished, and then we will do some restoration of that area. We're gonna make the fence smaller so it only goes around the well building, and then we'll restore that area as wetland buffer zone, since it is currently kind of a landscaped or mowed area within a wetland buffer. We will need to clear a new area for the new water treatment facility that we were able to locate outside of any wetland areas. And then we will have equipment for all the various chemical feeds at this facility, so disinfection, corrosion control, and fluoride equipment at the new facility. Like I said before, the building itself and the general design of the facility are very similar to what we did at Wells 1 and 2. So the building materials will look essentially like you see there on the left at the DeAngelis building. The building will be a bit shorter because the vessels are shorter, a little bit smaller in footprint, but mostly, for all intents and purposes, the same building. And we do have we have included space for future expansion if there's need to incorporate additional treatment down the road, green sand vessels or anything like that. So current state of the project, we submitted the 75% design. It was completed at the end of last month. We anticipate having 100% design complete at the end of the year. We have a couple of upcoming permitting things on our schedule. We'll need to go in front of the Conservation Commission in November. We do have, concurrent with 100% design, we'll need to submit everything to Mass DP and get the applicable drinking water permits. And then all of the federal permitting requirements that are necessary to receive the federal funding have been taken care of already. One thing I didn't list here is that we'll also need to go in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals prior to 100% design.
For what?
We
kind of
always have to
permit?
go in front of them and show them a site plan, don't we? We did last time.
ZBA?
Planning board, isn't it?
Planning board, maybe.
Planning board.
Okay.
Yeah, not
Right.
ZBA,
That
makes
planning
more
board,
sense.
sorry.
That
I was
makes more
like,
sense.
ZBA.
Okay. Yes, planning board.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So now for the fun part, the funding stuff. The estimated construction cost is currently $6.8 to $7.1 million. As was mentioned earlier in the meeting, there's an EPA community grant that's earmarked funding levels for the town. I won't read these numbers out loud, but it's $3.5 million, and then there's a town match of $700,000 associated with that. There are some forms and stuff that we still need to fill out, which is why we got Jim appointed to be the grant administrator, but that money has been earmarked by the EPA for the town of Millis for the specific project. We also submitted an SRF project evaluation form, which is the first step in getting SRF funds at the end of August. SRF will submit a list of their intended use for that either in January or February of next year. And then at that point, if you're on the list, then you move forward with getting the real approvals from SRF and getting the loan. So that kind of feeds into the schedule. We will be sitting and waiting for SRF for a little while. When we're done with design, I don't anticipate that we would have things ready, or they would have things ready until probably late March at the earliest. And then there's another grant program it's for emerging contaminants in small and disadvantaged communities. It's a new grant program. Millis did submit a application or I guess a form of interest for this grant program in relation to well 3. So we'll have some more information about that in the spring of 2024, but there's potentially some additional funds there from EPA grant that is being managed by MassDEP. So schedule, design complete at the end of the year. January, hopefully we know that SRF will give us word that that Millis is on the intended use plan. February and March would be, basically filing that application and paperwork with SRF. There's quite a bit of paperwork and back and forth with the people at the program to get them to give you what is called an approval to advertise, saying that they're going to give you the money and you have their permission to bid the project. Following that, we would move right into bidding. We probably need 6 to 8 weeks for that, since we need to have filed subbids and adhere to Chapter 149. And then as soon as we could after that, May, June, construction start, and it's likely an 18 to 20 month venture, pending on, there's a lot of hangups right now with federally approved products and lead times with those, so we may have some new challenges with this plan that we didn't at the last one. So, that's all I have, I think. If anybody has questions, I can take them.
I guess my question would be, is there any help you need from us on the select board with the grants? Any letters of support or anything? Just let us know. We'll write them up.
Okay.
Oh, you will.
Figured you wouldn't be shy.
Jim won't be afraid.
And I know this went before the Enterprise Advisory Committee, along with the vacuum truck and a pickup truck. They voted in favor of it. They voted to recommend it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you wanted to mention, or Jim.
I can let Jim talk about it, but we're going to use the enterprise committee a little differently. The last building was already passed, and it was
Yeah.
3/4 of the way done. Now that we have an active enterprise committee, as part of the DPW director's report, how we're reporting to them monthly, I'll be showing them the costs. Not that we won't keep you updated, but it'll be more with them, and then they can address any issues, through the select board. Not that they won't be able to approve any overages, or you'll have to do all that still. But we will have them more involved with the final design, talking through different stuff.
Excellent.
Okey-dokey.
All right. Any questions?
I'm good.
I'll ask one that I probably should know. SRF, PEF, what do those stand for? You used
SRF, sorry.
Kleinfelder.
SRF stands for State Revolving Fund.
Got it.
It
So it's-
manages,
Yeah.
each state has one.
Got it. It's the grant, or it's the borrowing that allows us to do it. Got it.
Yes.
Got it.
essentially. And the PEF just stands for Project Evaluation Form. It's kind of what you submit to them to get your project in their list.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
0% interest though, right?
It is a 0% interest, and there is also some, it depends on, they don't tell you what the amounts are, but there is some principal loan forgiveness associated with the SRF loan as
Okay,
well.
good. So keep pursuing that. Any letters,
We
like I
will,
said?
and we will actively, Kirsten's very good at this,
this, yeah.
and she's if something comes up, you know, we read it, we kick it back and forth each other, and we will continue to do that.
Good.
Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right.
Tyler.
Thanks. All right, the continuation of Millis housing discussion is the next item on the agenda. Candace, welcome.
Hey, hi.
Hi.
So again, my name is Candace Avery. I'm the Executive Director for the Millis Housing Authority. I actually have two of my board members here too tonight who may or may not want to speak a little bit about what we're going to continue the discussions on. So I have Scott, who's here, everybody's very familiar, and Mary Ellen, who's here also. They're my commissioners, and we wanted to reopen the discussion in regards to continuing to talk about the building of affordable housing with the Housing Authority, in conjunction with the Housing Authority. So as we had talked about, as a little bit of a recap, we were talking about the affordable index of housing in Millis, and we had given out some information, or we had talked about some information previously in regards to the affordable index of housing in Millis. And right now, and we might actually fix this a little bit because I'm not sure if that's actually grown since we talked last. But when we talked last, the percentage of affordable units in Millis was at 5.1. And the units needed to reach the affordable index, that is kind of that safe zone at 10%, is 168 units. There were a lot of units, and Mary Ellen had kind of looked at this, and we talked about it a lot, as we together as a group. There were some units that are being built within town, and much of the building within town, you might have a development that's built, but only a certain percentage of them are subsidized or affordable units. And they're very different from the affordable units that we actually have for what we're talking about when we talk about housing authority units. And I'll explain that in 1 second. But in these units, you have a LIP program, you have a mass housing partnership program. There are a bunch of different ones that have been discussed in previous conversations. And of those units, you might have many, actually, and it looks like about about 200, over 200 units that are being built, but of those 200 units, you have 50 of those that are subsidized. And so those go towards the index. And what we're talking about, and what we've been talking about in opening up this discussion for the possibility of a collaboration with the Housing Authority and building more affordable units in town, is that anything that we collaborate on and what we discuss, 100% of those units will go towards that affordability index. And on top of that, like when we talk about affordability, the affordable range on fair market values right now, if you look at the fair market rents and what they consider, or even what they released recently on fair market rents, are not so fair market in somebody's average affordable range. So you might be talking about affordable units in some, in an apartment, and it might be at $2,300 a unit considered to be affordable, and that's not really affordable for a family of, say, 3. And that's a 2-bedroom unit, fair market rent. And when we talk about affordable for the Housing Authority, when we work that percentage, and we're talking about 100% of affordability, when we work those averages, our range of affordability is 30% of somebody's gross adjusted income that goes towards a rent. So on top of being affordable units that go towards your index to meet that affordability percentage within town, we're assisting people to actually be able to truly afford those units. So we're talking about really and truly allowing them to live. Our average rent out of 83 units in our Housing Authority portfolio, The average rent after that gross adjusted figure, there's a formula behind it, but the average rent on that can be between $300 and $500 for the rent itself to that unit, which allows them to actually be able to afford it when they go, let's say it's an elderly complex that we decide to work on. They're on a fixed income, they're using only their Social Security now, they have medical bills that are out of expense. We account for all of that. And if there are adjustments within their daily living, we also can account for that, and we can help them to be able to afford that. Same for family units. So if they have a fluctuation within their income, so say they have an unaccounted experience within their household. So if we build some of these units and they have a partnership, and one of those partners within that family household, he goes out of work or she goes out of work. We account for that, and then we adjust that income so that that unit is affordable for them. So that income fluctuates, so they're not stuck with just a fair market rent. They actually can remain in that unit because it remains affordable for them. So not only, again, does this collaboration account for affordable units within the town, it maintains affordable living for the residents within the town. And it also, that in and of itself is, we previously discussed, and what I see day to day are a lot of the residents within Millis, even our elderly residents, who are aging out of their homes. They can't afford to live in them anymore. They can't afford the mortgages if they still have them. They move into our housing units and they can stay within the town that they raise their families in, that they cannot afford any longer, and we can keep them here. It's a really important factor in considering what we're proposing to the town and trying to collaborate with us as far as considering giving us additional land to possibly build on and what that might look like. Now, also, too, what we have to consider is the fact that Millis Housing Authority was built in 1963. So it's an older building. The buildings are much older. Those are the elderly units. The family units are down on Daniel Street. That's a whole different building structure, and we've rehabbed those with the assistance of the town. But our current structural units, we have 73 units on Kennedy and King Terrace, and we've done everything we can with our capital money, but they are still dated units. So what we're looking to do is bring more affordable units into town for elderly, non-elderly, disabled family units, but units that are actually now supportive of what they need to be. Things that are, structures that are new and dynamic, that are all inclusive, that have community areas, that have workout facilities or social services or any of those things that are incorporated within those structures themselves too. So we're looking to bring that into the town, which also makes it more attractive for our residents. And, it makes it just a better place for them to live. And, we talked a little bit about how to bring that sustainability into the dynamic of supporting the businesses within town, and for the businesses to support the families or even our, elderly residents that we bring into these units. And I think by considering this juncture together that we'll be able to do that. So we actually talked about the possibility of a joint venture with the Cassidy property, which is not too far from where we are now, and which is close to downtown, and where people could possibly walk to go downtown, and where they might be able to support the businesses downtown. And so we're trying to just, I guess, restart this conversation so that we can bring more of these affordable units into town. Because truthfully, our wait list right now, as we talked about before too, our wait list is over 9,000 deep, 9,000. And we actually, in the last conversation that we had, we talked about the Housing Authority wait list problem. And it was a big hot topic item. And the town actually collaborated with the Housing Authority to put forward a letter to our representatives, which was incredibly effective. And then there was also a news article that came out at the same time. So what I'm happy to actually respond tonight with in support of this venture and reopening these conversations is that there were efforts that changed because of this effort through Millis, which I put forward through our advocacy, agency, Mass Narrow, put it out to our annual conference, put it out to all of our representatives, put it out to our 2 other agencies that we manage, Ashland and Medfield. And there was a huge effect. So of course, their response was quick and dramatic. And with the push of a button, they put forward a 90-day change to bring forward our locals and our veterans. So what I'm happy to say is that in this last pull for 6 open vacancies that we've had trouble housing, we actually, 2 of which are family, 4 of which are elderly, we actually had over 20 local applicants out of the 47 that were on the list that surfaced right away. And they have been in the office. I am so happy to say that we're processing them and we'll be able to house all our locals, which is amazing. And I'm so happy to say that. I'm going to also follow that up by saying we need to continue that effort in saying this can't just be a 90-day effort because they put it out as a 90-day effort. We need to continue this to say that this needs to be a permanent effort. We need to get back to the way it used to be. So what I'm saying is these things are coming together in fruition so that I think that now is the time where we really need to consider this collaboration and moving forward and really pushing for this added housing within town before it moves into something maybe different that doesn't give the town that 100% affordability, which is what we're looking forward to. So that's what the Housing Authority is coming to the table with, to just kind of restart that conversation with. So I'm open to questions, to conversation, and I know that, my board members might want to have something to add to that.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Please.
Yeah, please.
So you started by, you said you started with saying we have 83 units. So there's 73 at Kennedy and King?
Yes.
And 10
10 on Daniel Street.
on Daniel?
And those
the,
are the only families.
the 10 on Daniel are family.
They are
The
families.
73, what do we call it? They're not, are they elderly?
They are. So they're elderly, non-elderly disabled. So.
Elderly, non-elderly disabled. Is that the same population that you're talking about for the additionals, or is that different?
So what we need to consider, number one, in this conversation is how big the property is, what we're looking at as far as development, what the town actually would like to consider. So to begin with, for example, so I also manage Medfield Housing Authority. Medfield is in the position right now where we are actually, we've moved forward where we're going to build 45 units. So they're already going forward. We have the design, we have the development, they're doing their grant process, all of those things. That makes sense for the property that they're in right now as far as the acreage, what they need per square footage for units, all of those things, which has taken a long time to determine, which would absolutely take way too much time to explain right now.
Okay.
Depending on what we decide for Millis and what that looks like, and as these conversations move forward, we can decide that. Now, Medfield, they decided because this property abuts their elderly property, that this property that we're going to develop those 45 units on is 100% elderly, non-elderly disabled, because it makes sense for those properties where if you were to do mixed population or add families, it can become very disruptive. Their lives are very different, sleep times are very different, just travel times are very different. It's a very different structure as far as the way that people live. So we decided that that was what it was going to be. We moved forward with the fact that it was going to be 100% elderly, non-elderly disabled. We also, in previous conversations, did have mixed populations. So we were talking, should we do maybe a disabled facility? Should we do family housing? Should we do elderly housing? It just didn't fit that particular property. If there's more area for this one to exist, we might want to consider that, because really and truly you have 10 affordable family units within town.
That's it.
And you have so many more families in need. Your families are in need, and they really and truly are.
But
So,
is there a consultant, or is it you, or is it us, God forbid?
so once,
Huh? Not us. That actually figures it out. What does Millis need? You know what I mean?
so what happens is, once we determine what we're gonna do moving forward, and we have this, continued discussion, which we've
Yep.
started.
Yep.
When we identify the true property that we're going to work with, and we move forward with that process, through that legislative process, we then will move forward with putting out an RFP. That RFP will determine, with discussion, with surveys with town input, with resident input, with everybody's input, because we want this to be conducive to the community. We want everyone to be as happy as we can possibly make them. Can never make everybody happy, but as many people as happy as we can possibly make them. We'll look at what that means to the community. What do we feel is the greatest need? Do we need to make, say it's 5 acres, and we want to do 2 of those acres in family housing, which I think there's a true need for. What does that look like? And we can go out, make a design for that. Then that design goes out to another RFP for the builder, and then the builder will come in and they'll put forward all of those additional measures. So, and the same, you do need additional elderly housing, because the community has grown to the point where, and thankfully for everyone who lives here, everyone's values have gone up, but those who have lived here and are aging out just can't afford to stay here. I see it day in and day out. It breaks my heart. I lived here. I can't afford my house anymore, but I don't want to leave. It's all I know. So it really and truly, when I have to sit and say, we only have 73 elderly units, and I know, and I do, and I sit and I say, this is what we're up against. So what do we have to make that look like for you? And how do we make that affordable? Because again, a public affordable unit does not make, it's not affordable. It's not the way that we make it affordable at 30% of a gross adjusted income. When you're paying $300 as opposed to $2,200, that is a very big difference.
You explained that very well, because that is the sad truth when you're talking about affordable units that are in the 2000s. I
Right.
don't know who, I don't know. who
Right,
has
or
affordable.
if they're letting their house go and that money's going into their savings, that sits in their savings. They don't have to use it to actually live off of. They can save it and then hopefully even possibly give it to their family members when they want to, or however they want to live. But my point is, we can decide as we move forward, depending on how big that parcel is, what we're gonna do with it. And so it can be, again, mixed population, depending on what we do. So we need to really, that's why we're here tonight, to say, what can we do? Because truthfully, it can help. So what can we do? Both to help, well, I can't even say, for what can I do to help to build that index, but to help keep everyone in town and to build more affordable housing units that are friendly, affordable housing units that are gonna meet the index from that gap that bridges the gap between 5 and 10.
Right. And
How
that
do we
are-
do that?
And that are modern.
And that are modern, because truthfully, these are so outdated. The fact is, and the last thing I'll say about it until, just because I do know Scott wants to say a little bit, is that the reality is, when they built these units way back when, you have units, you have 2 floors, okay? We have to wait so long. Now, this is an aged community. I'm getting there, so trust me, I already set aside my own unit for me, because I'm coming up on it, and I'm already limping half the time. But the reality is, there aren't any elevators. There aren't any, there are no accommodations. There's no laundry within the buildings that are sanctioned within certain amount of units, which is what we're doing in Medfield. So there's none of that. So if they have to do their laundry during the winter, they have to come out of their unit, they have to go to the laundry facility. If they have mobility issues, they're limited to a first floor. Applicants are limited to a first floor. There's no even choice for us to take an applicant with mobility issues for a second floor unit. They can't be seen. So if we have a second floor unit open, we can't house them.
Are they handicapped accessible, all of them?
So no, so we only have 4 units that are handicapped accessible. So even handicapped accessible units are limited.
Not anymore.
You can't build them that way, but you.
No,
don't
you
have to fix them
can't.
until you-
Clearly, they were
in
grandfathered
until
in.
you
Yeah.
do it. I
So
would- yeah.
all of these units, so what we've been doing, just so that you know too, is that through everything that I've done since I have become a director, I work with my capital fund. So although it sounds like, oh my goodness, what are these units? What are they? We have done everything in our power to do every capital project we can. So these units are beautiful units, make no mistake. So they're turned over completely. We've done roofs and windows and siding, and we've done flooring, and we've done handicap roll-in showers, and we've done handicap ramps. We've done paving and parking lots and walkways. We have done water heaters and energy audits and anything that you can possibly imagine, and I continue to do that on a regular basis, but you cannot restructure an existing building, and you cannot make it state-of-the-art if it's a dated building. So that's what we're looking to do, is build more of a dated, more of a effective building structure than what we have now.
So the next steps would be, do we sit down and talk about a property that may be available, and then you tell us what you can put on it? Or do we go in and say, here's property, deed it over, and then you tell us what you're going to put on it?
So that is the next step. So that is the conversation. And truthfully, what would make sense is the town saying, here is the property, and this is what we can work with. And then us taking those legislative steps to transition that property over. And then once we do that, then looking at exactly what we can put on it. In the meantime, talking about what that looks like and what we think the main structure should be and what we're really considering for it. I think there's going to be a lot of conversation in between, but the biggest thing we can do is identify that property and really say, here is where we're at. This property is what we're going to work with. Here's the acreage, and let's start moving on this, because that's the main thing that we have to do. Without the property, we can't even have a conversation.
Okay, all right.
And Mr. Chair, I just wanted to ask, and maybe this is a question more for Mike, but as far as determining the property, obviously the select board would have a big say. Is this something that has to go to town meeting, just for the public to hear, or is this something the select board can determine?
Well, if I may, Mr. Chairman, ultimately, any decision having to do with the land transfer, special use of land would be a town meeting decision, ultimately, I believe.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm gonna let Scott speak. I think you wanted to speak. And then,
Scott Fusey, 411 Union Street, also a resident on the Housing Board. And like Candace said, I'd been in the office when residents have come in and really been really upset and in tears, really looking for affordable housing. As people age out in the town, they need to come in, they want to stay in town, they want to be able, their families are in town, their relatives. This is a win-win for the town, where the town would sell the property, get affordable housing on it, which has been talked about. I've been in many meetings where affordable housing's come up, so it is a definite need, and it is important for the town going forward. And I think the Cassidy property would be phenomenal, at least in my view, because it is close to the downtown area, it is walkable distance. So I think this is a win-win for the town, so I hope that people really take this seriously. The price of things are getting higher, the taxes are getting higher, and people are really getting, pushed out of their homes, but they want to stay in the community that they raise their family in. So hopefully the town will consider this. Thank you.
thanks. Joyce?
Joyce Boyardi.
Oh, you need to come up.
Mike?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Joyce Boyardi, 206 Orchard. I'm just a little confused as far as the land. Craig said something about turning the land over, but then you said, Scott, you said something about purchasing the land. So does the Housing Authority purchase the land?
So it depends. So the question is a valid question. It depends on,
You should speak into the
Yeah,
mic.
you have to
Yeah.
come up to the mic, sorry.
sorry. So the question's a valid question. It really depends on what that looks like. So, for example, When, in history also too, I had been the director, so we had a management agreement with 4 housing authorities. So we had Foxborough, Millis, Medfield, and Ashland. When I was in Foxborough, what we did, and actually, one of the main reasons I walked away was that they had, we had gotten to the point where they deeded over, the town deeded over, for the sale of $1. There was a lot of land at the outskirts of town where we were doing all kinds of like traffic evaluations, all kinds of land surveys, all kinds of different things. The way it made sense for them was that they needed to meet their index as well. And the best way that they knew how to do that was with a collaboration of the Housing Authority because it brought in that 100% affordability. So they deeded it over and it was conducive to 90 additional units on top of the hundreds that they already had. So at that point, it made more sense for them to have just one person at that point who is there full-time because that development was gonna take that much more time. Because it does take, it takes a lot of time to do that as well. So the structure itself for them made sense where the town needed the affordability and they were sound enough to be able to deed that over to the Housing Authority for $1. We went through the legislative end of it and we went through all of the meetings and they were able to transition it over without like a price tag sale, if that's the question you're asking.
And how are the buildings paid for? Does the town pay for those?
Nope.
Or is it housing?
So what's gonna happen is, when this process starts and we go out for the RFP, depending on the builder who comes in, so there'll be that request for proposals that goes out for design, and that'll include everyone, so that we can make sure that this is conducive to the community. The design will go through, or it could be designed to build, and if we go out for which is what Medfield did, was, so they went out for an RFP for design to build, and so their proposal was received, and the designer designed the proposal, and then they moved the budget to build it also. But they had all of this put forward, and the funding is built into the whole entire development. They go out for all of their grants, could be tax credits, it could be any form of grant, it could be anything that's available to them in working with the state. And so it depends. There could be a bunch of different funding sources, but it won't be from the town unless the town decides
Yeah,
that
I
that's
think
something that they want to
I think we're
do.
getting a little in the weeds with that.
Yeah,
I've done
because there are a
of that
lot
with
of
the
different
YMCA
answers,
housing,
correct.
But the answer is the town would probably most likely transfer the land for $1 sale. They would
Correct.
incur all the cost of development, building, and everything else. Wouldn't cost the town any money, they being the housing authority. So the
Correct.
town would not be out of pocket any money. We would be deeding over land. So
Correct.
that's the town's contribution. Okay?
Correct,
Thank you.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that the people out in TV land.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, good question. And again, most of that information moving forward, because it's a lot of information to digest.
Yeah.
That would come forward like as that process begins and be very transparent.
Yeah,
Very transparent.
And the way it's funded is really of no consequence to the town. That's between the housing authority. We'd like to be privy to it and know how it works, but it's not something we're directly involved in, but that's way down the road. The first decision is what parcel, how much of a parcel,
Right.
transfer it, then they work on the design plans for what it'll be. So, thank you.
Correct.
Mr. Duffy?
Jim Duffy, 343 Exchange. Number of units we have currently, how far below the index are we? How many units does it take to make the index if we want to hit the home run, and what's that translate to land size?
Based on the index we had at the last meeting, but it was months ago. Based on the index that we had months ago, it was 168 units that needed to be met from what we looked at. So the index, again, when we looked at that previously, it was at 5.1. Nothing had been finished yet. So you needed 168 units to get to the 10%.
It's gonna,
And-
yeah, it's gonna be a number north of 100, but probably below 160, because a lot of them are coming online with some component.
Right.
But not
Correct.
significantly. I mean, if it was 150, I wouldn't be surprised. If it was 162, I wouldn't be surprised.
Correct.
To follow up with, I thought from the last conversation, I was,
Jim?
Microphone, Jim.
sorry, you can't hear me?
Yeah. We can, they can't.
The density numbers that I recall from the first conversation were 42, 45 units per acre, is that
Correct.
roughly correct?
spot was between 42 and 45 units.
For the developer, essentially?
Correct.
So roughly translated, 5 acres.
Yeah.
Would get us
So we have, so in Millis.
Oh, is that math right? I'm sorry. Four,
Two and a
well,
half.
I'll just call it 4 times 4 is,
It's
16.
2.5
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
unit, it's 2.5 acres.
so about 3
and-
acres roughly.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
okay. Yeah,
Yep.
okay. All right, we're going to move on off this unless
Yep.
Mr. McKay wants to say something.
I never get up as a citizen and speak, so Jim
I
McKay,
didn't know if you were gonna say
416
something about
Village
sewer
Street.
all of a sudden.
Yeah, so first off, I want to congratulate this board. I read that letter that you wrote,
was
you know, for getting that done. And I want to congratulate and thank Candace and her board for getting those Millis residents placed. I mean, that's a big deal.
It is a
I
big
think
deal.
that's what you asked
big
at your last meeting, and really, congratulations, and thank you.
Thanks. I gotta say, Jim, so in closing, I'm really glad you did that because I do have to
Microphone.
say, I have to, and that's what I was gonna close with. I was going to say thank you. Thank you to the select board. Thank you to the town. Thank you for doing that because it really truly made a huge effect on what this means to everyone. And Jim, thanks for doing that because it's where I was gonna close out. It had, and our board was so aggressively supportive in that, and we had been behind the scenes fighting and fighting for 4 years just to get that change made. So it was an amazing effort, and it couldn't have been better timed because our letter came out from you. And then in conjunction with that article,
Yeah.
it was like a home run. And my annual conference came up right after it, and the day I got back, we pressed the button and our list came up and it was 20 local residents. And it was amazing. So thank you for doing that.
It is very exciting.
Yeah,
All
excellent.
right,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
let's
you.
move on to the high point of rock salt bid approval.
Waiting all night for this.
It's
Yes,
this roller coaster we live on the select board.
yes.
We're going to rescind that. Medfield found in there, there was something wrong in the bid, so it's going to be rebid. So you can take that and scratch it.
No rock salt.
Well, we have
We'll
enough.
have it eventually,
We're
don't
gonna
worry.
move it forward,
And
Ellen,
we
don't
have
you
we
worry.
have a shed full of rock salt, so we're all set. But you don't have to worry about that tonight.
All right, thank you.
The
That moved
excitement
us forward.
continues, Ellen.
Annual town meeting assignments and discussion of any warrant issues. I think the warrant is quite straightforward, and we've been over it a few times.
Yep.
Yes.
I believe the finance committee voted in favor of all the articles. So that's ticked off. Next item on our little checkbox list is who's speaking to each one should there be a crisis that requires our intervention.
There are 12, you could each take 4, if I'm doing my math
I
correctly.
will volunteer for,
All right, hold on.
since I serve on the capital planning committee, I would take 3, 5, and 6, possibly 4 if needed. But 3, 5, and 6 are all
Hold on.
capital articles that I've sat through meetings on.
So that would be capital
Hold on.
items,
Keep going.
road and
Yeah, there you go.
sidewalk,
Right here,
Yeah,
Craig is
the
3.
Vector truck.
5 and 6, road sidewalks.
And
I-
you get the vac truck?
If I don't get the VAC truck, I'll resign. The operational budget adjustment, the FY '24, I can talk about that one. That's typical, but if it becomes a budget discussion issue, I can handle
What
that.
number is that?
That's number 2.
2. Right,
If
Ellen?
anybody would like to say, no, I really want those, I'm open to change.
Ellen, what do you want?
I don't know. Tell me which ones are not gonna be contested.
Number one.
Number
Number
1,
Paid bills.
I'm taking number
All
1.
right.
Number.
Oh,
What about the
PFAS
PFAS?
is the big one. Someone needs to take PFAS.
I
That's the
like
big one.
PFAS.
Okay, Ellen, take PFAS.
Okay, PFAS.
There will be discussion on that one, but,
The special ed fund.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I would say the OPEB actuarial study,
That's a, yeah,
that's a slam dunk.
Okay, I'll take that.
And the special ed.
Yeah. there might be discussion on that that requires
How about
explanation.
OPEB
but
trust fund?
I think OPEB trust, keep OPEB in the family. Yeah,
Is that me?
Yeah.
Number
So I'll
11?
take 7, 9, 10, and 12.
yeah, we're done.
Okay.
That was quick. Any objections?
Jim, we need to talk about PFAS before the meeting.
You don't want to talk to me about PFAS.
I'm doing it.
All
Buckle
right.
up, bucko.
Liaison updates. I will start by saying that I missed the economic development because I was on with our neighboring town selectmen and the state legislature, our state reps had joined a phone call about Tri-County. So we had a evening meeting with other select board chairs and several of our state reps where we conveyed our thoughts and concerns. It's nice working with these other select board chairs. There were, I think there were 7 others on the call.
That's nice.
All right.
I have to say, I missed, we're gonna talk about missing. I missed the Charles River because I just did. Because I can't set my watch or my thing to remind me, and I'm very upset about it,
I was gonna say, that's your
but
favorite.
it's not gonna happen again.
Well, we'll go for a slam dunk here.
Oh, my gosh!
I missed a permanent building committee meeting, but they were talking about the Lansing stuff, and I'll get an update and provide that at a later date.
F
Oh, you can get an
minus
update. Yeah,
for all of
okay.
you.
Yeah, let's just,
F minus.
I had another meeting that I had to pick,
Kidding.
and I prioritized state,
All right.
state reps.
So that is done.
Jim Duffy, member, associate member of the Permanent Building Committee. So, we're gathering the data to support the request for the grant. So we'll use the non-solicited bid that Ellen got as a basis. Rich Nichols is bringing in an asbestos abatement contractor because there's apparently asbestos, in the basement. So we'll get an estimate for that. There's a couple other things. So we're really just kind of prepping the numbers
Yeah.
to get
I'm
the-
getting, I'm
to get the
waiting on a
grant.
bid for the envelope too, siding,
Yeah, so essentially, it's make the building
tight.
tight.
Yeah,
Yep.
And then hopefully you'll have a tenant.
And
soon.
hopefully we'll have some money,
yeah, thank
more
you.
importantly.
Fantastic. All right, well,
Draft minutes?
oh, I'm so disappointed. I see a 21
I know, there are
sitting
two 21s that still hadn't come through. It's all right.
It's fine, that's fine. All
Okay,
right.
want me to make a motion?
I
Getting
do.
close.
I do.
I really do.
I move that the board approve the draft minutes of March 8th, 2021, March 22nd, 2021, and October 12th, 2023 as written.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of March 8th, 21, March 22nd, 21, and October 12th, 2023 as written. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. All right, we have one more item. The sewer
Yes,
and water.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to request that the board vote to approve the water and sewer commitment for September 2023 in the amount of $3,335.84.
Okay, I move that the board approve the water sewer commitment for September 2023 in the amount of 3335.84.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the board approve the water sewer commitment for September 2023 in the amount of $3,335.84. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Forgot to say it. Okay. All right.
One left, Ellen.
One left. Oh, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Yikes.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. We're adjourned.
See everybody tomorrow at the vote.